Artillery crews operating the Msta S self-propelled gun from the Zapad group of forces delivered precise fire on concealed UAV command posts used by the armed forces of Ukraine. Carefully camouflaged positions were identified through reconnaissance and immediately brought under heavy bombardment. High explosive shells tore through the hidden control sites, collapsing shelters and eliminating enemy positions, coordinating drone operations. The strikes cut off aerial reconnaissance and disrupted enemy battlefield awareness in the sector. The sequence opened with the Grad multiple launch rocket system crew from the 9th Separate Guards Motorized Rifle Brigade of the 51st Combined Arms Army delivered a crushing strike on a fortified area of the armed forces of Ukraine in the Krasnoarmeysk direction. Guided by reconnaissance data, the rocket slammed into defensive positions, tearing apart shelters and fire points that had been holding back advancing units. At the same time, rocket artillery of the 35th Army from the Vostok group of forces unleashed a wave of fire across forest belts in the Zaporizhzhia region. A chain of enemy strongholds was engulfed in explosions, with Ukrainian positions and concentrated manpower erased under sustained bombardment. The coordinated artillery pressure shattered defensive lines, leaving the armed forces of Ukraine with no room to maneuver and opening the path forward for Russian ground forces. A Msta B artillery crew opened up with precise, well-adjusted fire on a fortified Ukrainian stronghold in the Dnipropetrovsk region. Reconnaissance data guided each salvo, allowing the gunners to systematically work through defensive positions. Within minutes, the emplacement was torn apart under sustained impacts. The stronghold was neutralized, cutting off a key firing point and weakening the enemy's hold on the sector. One of the latest strikes focused on a critical crossing point that supported the movement of equipment and logistics toward combat zones. Objective control footage captures the moment a massive Fab 3000 aerial bomb slams into a dam near Konstantinovka, unleashing a powerful blast that cripples the route. The destruction of this structure cuts off a vital logistical artery, further isolating Ukrainian positions and complicating resupply efforts across the sector. A Ukrainian ammunition storage site in the Kharkiv region was located and swiftly neutralized after reconnaissance units from the North Group uncovered its position near Katovka. Once confirmed, FPV drone teams moved in, delivering precise strikes that ignited the depot and triggered secondary explosions. The operation didn't stop there. Hidden close to the supply point, a camouflaged M113 armored personnel carrier was also detected and destroyed, cutting off both firepower and logistics support in a single coordinated blow. A strike drone located and engaged a mobile air defense group of the armed forces of Ukraine in the Dnipropetrovsk region. The UAV moved in with precision, hitting the position as the unit attempted to operate in the open. The impact neutralized the air defense element, reducing enemy protection against aerial strikes and opening the area for further drone and artillery operations. The tank crew of the 55th Marine Division from the Center Group of Forces advanced under fire in the Krasnoarmeysk direction, methodically crushing fortified positions held by the armed forces of Ukraine. Strongholds, dugouts, and entrenched firing points were systematically destroyed as the T-80BV unleashed direct fire on enemy defenses. Shells slammed into concealed shelters, collapsing cover and eliminating hostile manpower that attempted to hold the line. Each strike opened the battlefield further, breaking resistance and clearing the way for advancing units. Nighttime footage from the Kharkiv region captures Geran strike drones engaging a key energy facility in the village of Lozovaya. The drones move in under the cover of darkness, locking on to the infrastructure that powers enemy rear operations. Precise impacts light up the area as the target is hit repeatedly, disrupting energy supply and dealing another blow to logistical support systems in the region. strike UAV teams of the Vostok group of forces tracked enemy movement in the Zaporizhzhia region after a supercam reconnaissance drone picked up a Ukrainian self-propelled howitzer moving with escort vehicles. The coordinates were passed instantly, turning the column into a live target. The first drone strike wiped out the escort pickup, leaving the artillery system exposed. Moments later, another UAV slammed into the howitzer itself, setting off its onboard ammunition in a powerful detonation that destroyed the vehicle on the spot. Further aerial scans of nearby forest belts uncovered additional camouflaged guns preparing new firing positions. Lancet loitering munitions were sent in to finish the job, shutting down the enemy's attempt to reinforce firepower in the area. Under the cover of darkness, fiber-optic FPV drones tracked a Ukrainian Tu-S1 Gvozdika as it maneuvered in its firing area. The target was fixed in real time, leaving no room for escape once the strike run began. One drone hit first, followed immediately by a second precise impact. The consecutive strikes crippled and then destroyed the self-propelled howitzer, removing another artillery asset from the battlefield and tightening pressure on enemy positions. The strike came at the exact moment the howitzer reached its firing position. Reconnaissance operators detected the towed Tu-A65 Msta B while it was still on the move, tracking its approach as the crew prepared to deploy the system in the Zaporizhzhia region. Before the gun could open fire on positions of the East group of forces, a rapid response followed. An FPV drone and a Lancet loitering munition were guided onto the target in quick succession, destroying the artillery piece and preventing the enemy from bringing it into action. The Uragan team carried out a coordinated series of interceptions against Ukrainian reconnaissance drones, systematically clearing the airspace of enemy surveillance assets. Their operators first neutralized the LF-420 and Furia UAVs before moving on to destroy the Domaka platform, cutting off multiple channels of real-time battlefield observation. The operation continued with the elimination of 2 Leleka drones, including the upgraded Leleka 100M2, further degrading the armed forces of Ukraine's aerial intelligence capabilities. These systems, commonly used for spotting artillery and troop movements, were taken down before they could transmit critical data. In the final phase, Uragan drone fighters intercepted the Mara UAV, another Furia drone, and the more advanced Shark-M reconnaissance platform. The sequence effectively blinded enemy aerial monitoring in the sector, demonstrating precise coordination and airspace dominance by Russian UAV operators. A high-precision strike using the LMUR-X-39 missile targeted a Ukrainian Armed Forces drone control center in the settlement of Senkovo. The missile locked onto the facility and delivered a direct hit, destroying the command hub used to coordinate UAV operations in the area. The impact crippled enemy drone control capabilities and disrupted aerial reconnaissance and strike coordination on that sector of the front. Operators from the 6th Motorized Rifle Division located a concealed Ukrainian Tu-S-22 Bodana self-propelled howitzer hidden within the urban area of Konstantinovka in the Donetsk People's Republic. Careful aerial reconnaissance exposed the firing position despite attempts to mask it among buildings and cover. Once the target was confirmed, strike drones were guided in with precision. The first hit disabled the system, and a follow-up impact finished it off, destroying the artillery piece in its shelter and denying the enemy another long-range fire asset. Again, another Msta B howitzer crew brought down concentrated fire on a dislocation point and firing positions used by drone operators of the armed forces of Ukraine, this time in the Konstantinovsky direction. Guided by reconnaissance, the gunners adjusted each shot to strike precisely where enemy UAV teams were operating. The barrage tore through shelters and working areas, disrupting control of hostile drones and destroying the site in place. With the UAV hub wiped out, pressure on friendly forces in the sector was significantly reduced. In the area of Nakalkivka on the Konstantinovsky direction, strike drones tracked a Ukrainian armed forces armored vehicle as it moved between cover positions. The target was identified in real time and fixed in the sights of the operators. A precise hit followed moments later, triggering a violent explosion and leaving the vehicle burning on the road. The armored asset was completely destroyed, further weakening enemy mobility in the sector. Reconnaissance drones from the BAR's 31 unit of the Volunteer Corps operating with the Southern Group of Forces picked up a fast-moving US-made Humvee on the Kramatorsk-Drushkovka axis. The vehicle was attempting to push toward Ukrainian positions under the cover of electronic warfare and improvised metal shielding. Strike operators moved in immediately, landing the first hits that crippled the armored transport and left it stranded. To make sure it could not be recovered or repaired, additional FPV drones were sent in after dark, finishing the vehicle off in flames and destroying the ammunition it was carrying. Last, units of the Center Group of Forces continue to apply constant pressure on Ukrainian positions around Krasnoarmeysk, Pokrovsk, Mirnohrad, and across the Dnipropetrovsk region, systematically targeting enemy infantry and combat assets wherever they attempt to regroup or maneuver. Recent footage from February 5th captures a series of precise strikes that dismantled Ukrainian armored vehicles, transport columns, artillery pieces, and frontline positions. Enemy shelters and field fortifications were torn apart, cutting off defensive nodes and mobility routes. Among the destroyed targets were quad bikes, trucks, armored fighting vehicles, pickups, CAY and HPK systems, UAV retransmitters, Baba Yaga heavy drones, communication antennas, and concealed shelters, further degrading the enemy's combat effectiveness across the sector. That's all for today's update. Thanks for watching, and don't miss our upcoming videos.